Hello.
Hi. Hello.
It's Hugo Girl, the podcast.
It's us.
And we are reading Neuromancer this month.
Yeah, we are. What's your name?
My name is Haley.
My name's Amy.
My name is Lori.
Nice to meet you guys.
And today I am very excited because we're going to talk a lot about cyberpunk, one of my favorites.
We sure are.
In fact, I would almost rather just talk about cyberpunk than this book.
Well, one thing, you can't talk about cyberpunk unless you talk about this book. Although Blade Runner came out right before it, so...
Yeah, they were kind of like extant, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, Neuromancer by William Gibson, who also, I discovered, has a delightful Twitter. He has a wonderful family and a nice orange cat.
I looked at that.
That's nice.
It's
He
really
also has
cute.
a delightful Wikipedia page. It's very funny.
Yeah. He's a big deal. Neuromancer, this book was published in 1984. It would go on to win the Nebula Award as well and the Philip K. Dick Award. And this is the only sci-fi novel to capture all three, kind of like the Golden
really?
Crown. Yep.
Wacky.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that's
My mind is blown.
no other book has done that. So, yeah. So, should I hop into plot?
Can I do comments and
Yes.
stuff?
Comment stuff. Yes.
We don't have any new reviews, which is okay.
Womp, womp,
I forgive
womp.
you all who haven't left us a review. But we should say hi to Chris Noble, who's left us a lot of comments recently on our
Chris.
Facebook page, and we've been happy to read them. So hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
And then also I wanted to say people who recommended this book were, well, it was funny because we had already picked it. And then I went to the internet and I said, what book should we read next year? And my friend from work, Jessica, and also our friend on Instagram, Cyborg Book Club, both said Neuromancer. And I said, guess what? It'll be in like 2 weeks.
It's your lucky day.
Yes. So Jessica and Cyborg Book Club kind of recommended this.
I'm also recording these with a pair of cyberpunk glasses that I ordered from Amazon for $12. We'll post them on Instagram and maybe Twitter.
So was the product named Cyberpunk Glasses?
No. Technically, they were called Fancy Glasses. Fancy misspelled with an E. These are from actually Chiba City, so it makes sense.
Back alley.
Yeah. I got some nail implants that didn't stick, but what can you do?
I have pressed nails today. I have my nail implants.
You had your beautiful nail implants for the Hugo Awards, too.
I got nothing.
Yes.
I'm vat grown.
It happens. It happens. Normies. Alrighty, let's dive into this plot. I decided to go the short route because a lot happens in this book. And full disclosure, I read this twice. The first time I read it, I was like, what? Did I read a book? And then I read a very lengthy analysis summary, and I was like, I didn't get any of that. And then I read it again because I'm dedicated to this podcast. And it all made sense the second time around. But let's do it. Our protagonist in Neuromancer is a man named Case. He's a down-and-out hacker living in Night City, unable to hack anymore because he cheated his former employee and they damaged his nervous system so he can't access cyberspace. That's how I feel when the internet goes out. He gets approached by a street samurai named Molly Millions, who is definitely not what's-her-face from Blade Runner. She takes him to her boss, a man named Armitage, who is assembling a crew for a heist. If he takes the job, they'll fix his nervous system so he can get his dose of the internet back again. So he's like, yeah, I'm in. He and Molly start boning. I'm not sure why. Probably because they're just there.
You know, lust.
They're then off to travel the world and visiting a space station even to pick up other members for the crew for the heist. One's a disembodied consciousness living in a ROM called Dixie Flatline, also a great drag queen name.
And it's a great drag queen.
I mean, the best drag queen name is My Dixie Wrecked, but you got to spell it out wrong. And the other is Peter Riviera, a man who can project holographic images from his mind into reality. They get help with transport from space Rastafarians.
They sure do.
That's where the plot stops making a ton of sense to me. Case, while in and out of a matrix-like cyberspace, kind of like in the movie Hackers, like he's visualizing the mainframe, which is not how the internet works.
It's also like Lawnmower Man. And
Yeah,
Tron.
like the 90s were great for visualizing what the internet they thought it would be, and it turned out not to be. While in cyberspace, one of many, many times, he's kind of like in that consensual hallucination. He meets an AI named Wintermute, who's basically like the man behind the curtain when it comes to this whole heist. From arranging the personality of PTSD scarred Armitage to getting Molly to, track down Case and get him to agree to the heist. They get to space in this space station. They break into the Villa Straylight, which is owned by the Tessier Ashpole corporate family. There's a ninja assassin. There's another half of the AI, the eponymous Neuromancer. There's a tussle. The two AIs combine, becoming a super consciousness, and that's about it.
Well, he also sees himself strolling down the beach with Linda or something.
Yeah.
Oh, you forgot all about Linda Lee.
Yeah, there's a lot of other stuff I didn't
There's a
mention
lot
because it
that
would take
happens.
20 minutes to explain,
Yeah.
but that is the overall plot of the book. So
Does he get a new pancreas at the end of the book?
I think he gets like,
Gets a whole new one.
yeah, he's like, let's just flush this whole thing out.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Is it so he can do drugs again?
Well, maybe, but I think primarily so he can not die from the pancreas that he's already ruined.
yeah, because they sewed like toxin sacks into his.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
That's right. Okay.
All right, so goodies from Goodreads. I've got one great one, but I want to start off with maybe the best goodie from not Goodreads, but from the internet. So the science fiction writer Samuel R. Delany, which you may remember from some such books as Stars in My Pocket Like Grains of Sand, he marveled at the novel's wonderful, almost hypnotic surface hardness. And this is from a New Yorker article on Gibson that I read, a profile of him. Fun fact, Delany was a huge influence on Gibson, especially his book Nova, which features cyborgs. This explains why I had trouble reading both books. They were like into each other.
They're friends.
Yep.
I think my favorite goodie from Goodread, I did have another goodie from Goodread, but the audience should know I left my outline at home, so I'm going off memory. But one of my favorite goodies from Goodreads is Gibson's own commentary on his book. On his wiki page, it says, Gibson later commented on himself as an author, circa Neuromancer, that I'd buy him a drink, but I don't know if I'd loan him any money, and referred to the novel as an adolescence book.
Boys' adventure.
Yeah.
It's definitely boys' adventure, or like teen boys' adventure fiction.
All right. I've got Frida Andreasen from Goodreads gave it 1 star and said, among many other things, I plucked out a quote. Frida said, either I'm a complete moron or this book was very badly written. I know which way I'm leaning.
I did see one good one on Goodreads by this woman, Casey, who I mainly liked the review because when she was talking about the caricature Rastafarians that were in the book, one of them says to Case at one point, you look pale, maybe you need to eat something. And then she had a picture of the Fonz with his leather jacket on the skis.
Jumping the shark.
I think someone calls him pale. Jumping the shark.
Jumping the shark.
That's why.
Yeah, that's why they did it. I saw that review. It was
That's
good.
very funny.
I have one more good review.
Do you know about jumping the shark, Lori?
Yeah, but I don't get it.
Like
That's where the story jumped the shark, when they had the Rastafarians in space.
it just gets like too unbelievable to like understand.
That's her opinion.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't find that. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's the best metaphor for the absurdity of having space Rastafarians being caricatures, but
Well, why wouldn't there be space Rastafarians? Like,
yeah, I mean, I
why
remember
would there be
I
diaspora?
think it was more the portrayal of them, because right before she put that picture, she had talked about it being a bad caricature of them. And
Yeah,
so
well,
I think that's what
it's also a white man writing in a patois that's not his own.
Right.
So, I've decided lately that the 1-star reviews are just like savage. I hate this book. The juice is in the 2-star reviews.
Yeah, I agree.
So Katie Savage on Goodreads said, I didn't swoon when Case experienced the personal emotional tragedy and responded invariably with an astute observation like shit. Nor did I salivate with a reliable 2 or 3 word sentence that ended each paragraph. He flipped. Case jacked out. He flipped. I didn't nod along elatedly when basically every female character, each of them smoking hot, of course, who's going to read about ugly girls, wants to fall in love with and help our main character, a character who has the emotional vocabulary of a bran flake and a physical description little beyond generic. Also, the people of color want to help, but that's probably the doing of their mystical dubstep Rasta god. I thought that was a great review. It went longer, but I was like, ooh, she got it.
Well, this whole book is funny because it's like you never know what people are doing what because that's what they're motivated to do all on their own, or what people are doing what because Wintermute has somehow gotten to them.
Yeah.
Because every time you find out about something, you also find out about something he's done to like manipulate it, which I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, there's some good
Did
stuff
he get
in
to
here.
the Rastafarians? Did he?
Did he do what?
Wintermute. Did he get to the Rastafarians?
I think so, yeah. Like at one point he talks, he's like, I think this is like a...
Ooh, he's a little bit like the Benny Gesserit.
Oh, he is like a Benny Gesserit.
The Wintermute was playing a real long game.
Yeah, he was. Yes, he was. He talked about one point like making a kid hide the knife for like 30 years because nobody would find it in there. He like, killed the kid after the kid had the knife.
You know, I think why I struggled understanding this book because Wintermute is kind of like a trickster god. And you know how I feel about him, like showing up in different forms, like...
Now him and Neuromancer are the trickster god of the entire internet.
Yeah, this book...
Maybe that's why we have what we have.
Yeah. This book is like reading Gabriel Garcia Marquez. You have to read every single word or you will get lost.
Yeah.
Like, I am a skimmer for a lot of things. Like, you know, you can tell sometimes when, like, there's, like, a description paragraph that's not going to advance the plot. If you're in a rush, you can skip it. But, like, if I did that, I would have to go back 10 times. Like, I had to read every single word.
Did you guys think this book was well written?
No. I thought some of the passages were well written, but I think as a whole, there's so much skipping around that I would suddenly be like, oh, why is there no gravity? Are they in space now? Like, I just didn't have a good sense of when they had transitioned from one place to another, or if they were in a different place, where that place was. So I felt like it was just sort of disjointed and didn't have good indicators for when, like, the scene had changed or the setting had changed. And that, to me, I think was probably the biggest challenge for me in understanding what was going on, because I'd be like, oh, well, we were just in a hotel a minute ago, and now, like, Molly's padding through a hallway and there's artificial gravity, and I just was very confused a lot of the time about where we were, how we got there, when we went. Did anything happen in between? I don't know. And I really even think, like, maybe some spaces between the sections would tell you, like, we've gone somewhere else.
I had spaces on the ebook.
Yeah, I had some spaces, but I just often felt like
not every time you flipped over to the SimStim or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of times had a hard time following where we were and why.
When I read my Men's Adventure Webb Griffin books, every single section of it, like every paragraph or like section break between, like portions of a chapter has like a location and a time.
Yeah.
And I kind of,
how hard would that be?
Very helpful.
Some people hate that, but I was like, I love like being grounded.
I love being oriented.
Especially if it's some kind of like travelogue, which they do a lot of moving
They go from
around.
like Istanbul to space to wherever.
I think he was going a little bit for like this drug-addled, like, you're getting messed up by the drugs or the internet or the people or whatever. Like, I think he was going for a little bit of a fog, I think. Maybe that's giving him too much credit.
I was foggy.
Did y'all read about why he wrote this book?
He was like paid to, right?
He was paid to write it, and he wrote it in a year, and he'd never written a book before. And so I think that, and he rewrote a lot of it a lot of times.
He rewrote it 12 times.
Yeah. Because he knew it wasn't.
For everyone who just finished NaNoWriMo, how does one go about getting paid to write a book, the first book ever?
He was, this guy was doing
I think he wrote a short story too.
Yeah, he had written something, or he'd written quite a bit. He'd written short stories before, and some guy was doing this thing to specifically highlight debut novels, and so he got paid to write this book in a year. And I would be very interested to read some of his later stuff, because there are some parts of this book where it's poetic.
Absolutely.
Like, some of his writing is beautiful, and very evocative and great, but it suffered a lot in the pacing and the plotting and the explanation suffered quite a bit.
Yeah, it's not cohesive for me, but there were certainly parts of it that I really enjoyed, and then I would get back to parts I didn't enjoy.
I couldn't follow the heist, which was my main problem.
Totally.
Because the heist isn't real.
I was never. Well, I mean, it's
no. So like the only reason they were supposed to be there was to combine the two AIs.
Right,
Like there's
that's the heist.
Yeah, but there's not like a thing to really get. Like they had to.
But that's the gambit. That's what they're doing.
But I think it was always going to be like down, because I think people were expecting more of like a. And then I got the thing in my hand.
Yeah, I wasn't mad about the payoff. It was the how do these people fit together, and what are they all working towards, and do any of them know? I guess. Because, like, if you're watching, like, an Ocean's movie, you're always pretty clear on what they're doing.
They're getting $8 million, too.
Yeah,
like, it's very clear, yeah.
Yeah. Like, you know what they're aiming towards. But there were so, like, when they were gathering up their little team, there were so many little side quests that I just got confused.
I got confused by the amount of NPCs in this book, too. Like, how many people would just, like, walk up and tell them a thing, and then we never hear from them again. But then maybe 60 pages later, they would just say that person's name would come back, and I'd be like, who are you?
Like that one that showed up, and Molly was very inexplicably hostile to him, even though he was being polite. It was like when they were in Istanbul, I think. And he brought them coffee, and he was like talking to them.
And he said, Case called him Jersey because he couldn't say his name.
Yeah, and eventually she explains he's a torturer or something, but you don't understand that until he's already gone.
Well, she's also mad at him because he like flat out said, I don't like women with modifications. So she's like, that's me. So
yeah, that would explain some of it, I guess. Yeah, I just thought she was. Well, she's kind of a hostile person anyway.
Yeah, no, he was like, we don't think women are like.
Yeah,
that's like a natural. So
I'm
on Team Molly for like.
He's one of those
I'm
guys.
usually on Team Molly, to be clear, but I just wasn't. I wasn't clear on that. Like, where did all that come from? But then
he's one of those guys who thinks he likes natural women, but actually has no idea that all the pictures he's posting on the internet are women wearing a lot of makeup.
I know women should wear makeup. Here's a woman with a whole lot of makeup on.
I found a great subreddit called and I found this from Googling like things about like. Why doesn't this make sense in Neuromancer? And it's a subreddit called Men Writing Women, which that's right up our alley.
Oh.
And there were some great points in it. I'm going to highlight one. So username Shiny New Charkar said, early cyberpunk took a lot of cues from noir, one of the most common being a dystopic look at how intimacy and romance are now things to be purchased. The genre itself is a dystopic nightmare. It's supposed to be. It's also often intended and written in order to make the reader uncomfortable. And that kind of goes back to what we were saying. Like, we read so many books where it's like, is it bad writing or is it just like he's trying to confuse you? He's drug out of like. And I read a review on Goodreads that was like, if you have a great plot, clarity will never betray your intentions. Like, but some people,
Right. That's
like,
a good point.
But like listener Steven and some people like to be like thrown into a plot, like make sense of it. I'm the opposite.
I'm okay with not having everything spelled out. Like, I'm okay with an untied up ending. I'm okay with like that kind of thing. But I think a lot of this was unintentional opacity because he didn't know how to fully flesh out a character. He didn't know how to fully flesh out a plot. I mean,
he didn't know how to stitch all these
and he had a
things together.
complicated plot.
Yeah.
And so it would have been challenging for someone who'd written 8 novels.
Yeah.
I think.
Normally, it would bug me. Like, I was continuously confused with Stars in My Pocket, but this book to me is like Dune. I hated reading Dune, but I loved the world of Dune and the characters
I
of
feel
Dune.
the same way, yeah.
Yeah, but like reading it was a slog, and like I had to read it a million times, and I had to like study this book to make sense of it. And now I'm just like, but I like what he did, but the execution of it is not great.
I think what made me really like the book was when I read, I'm going to have to find the link and put it on the notes, but I read a little synopsis or essay about the book, and it talked about how what the book is really about is trauma. Instead of like the internet, it's about how we take our traumas with us where we go, how they turn into liabilities because people can exploit them, how it makes us make bad decisions, how it drives all of our decisions. And I thought if he was really going for that, I thought it was really good. These people are damaged.
The universal theme, hurt people.
Yeah, absolutely.
This book, I really enjoyed the first 100 pages, but I remember reading the first 100 pages and getting that there was a heist, and by the time I got toward the end of the book, I completely forgot that it was to steal the mental identity of Dixie Flatline so that he could help them somehow. But I read that and I was like, well, this was great and suspenseful, and like they created a riot and all this bad stuff happened. And then I was like, I've got 250 more pages left. I was like, what happens now? And the answer was, I don't know. It was weird though that there was like a heist before the heist. And
it's like the first part of the heist.
The first part of the heist worked for me. And then the primary heist, I was just confused during it.
Yeah.
I was just extremely confused during the first 100 pages because there was so much lingo and so little information about. I mean, the way it starts out in this, dirty underbelly of this one part of Tokyo, and parts of that were really well described. Parts of that setting were, you knew where you were, but it was so heavily buried under lingo that I almost couldn't follow. I couldn't follow what was happening.
Yeah, one of the first things I did was Google Neuromancer vocababary, and it really helped.
Okay, I should have done that. I'm so reluctant to reach out to the internet for help. I should start doing that.
I jacked right in. Like, it's like I can't read Faulkner unless Professor McAlexander at UGA in 2004 is explaining it to me. Like, some things I just need help with.
Well, people have had that debate for a long time too. Is Faulkner good or is he just opaque?
I don't know. I mean, I generally think over Thanksgiving break last week, I read 3 books, and like I just was like, I know what's happening.
Me too.
And then I got home and Sunday started reading this, and I was like,
I read 4 books while I was reading this book.
Yeah, like, because it's just like nice to be like, and then I went to the store, and then I bought a banana at the store, and then I left the store, and I know what's happening.
I think we're 3 people with pretty high reading comprehension skills, and if we got this lost in this book, I mean, I think that says something. Maybe I have too high an opinion of our abilities, but
no, I leaned pretty heavily on William Gibson fandom.wiki.
Yes.
Because I couldn't remember who a lot of the characters were because there were so many, and
they had so many names.
Be in and out. Yes, they would be in and out briefly, and then Dixie Flatline. It's easy to know that when he says Dix, okay, that's him. But Dixie Flatline, the Flatline, the Construct,
the Finn.
And then it turns out his name is Paulie McCoy.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's the one that they stole initially. And I completely forgot about that. I was like, oh, that's what that whole thing was about.
Yeah.
Well, I knew when they were doing that it was part of a larger heist, but I didn't know what part it was supposed to play until way later.
It's like a little heist amuse-bouche.
You're right.
All right. My question for you guys is, what does the Flatline look like?
The person?
Because they go and steal. Like, he carries Dixie Flatline around with him.
Oh, I just assume it's a disc or something.
I pictured a external drive.
Yeah, mine was like a box the size of a shoebox, and it was like beige and had like 2 circles on it.
Oh, like air
was in there?
holes for him.
Oh,
I don't know.
This is the 80s. This is the 80s. What would
It doesn't. It doesn't like. I think it looked like. So there was old modems and old movies where you like put the phone on a box and it like dials into the internet like hardcore. I don't know. So that's what I was thinking. I also spent several times Googling like if we were to cast this today. I've been listening to a lot of movie podcasts, so I was trying to. So I Googled like because Case is supposed to be 24. I was like, okay, who's a 20 to 28-year-old actor?
Well, I can tell you who they're trying to get for the Apple TV show that's coming out. Miles Teller from.
That man is 35 years old.
Who is that?
Yeah.
He's in the new,
He's the new
Top Gun.
He's very cute.
Oh.
And he was in that drummer jazz movie.
Oh yeah, Whiplash.
Yeah.
Drummer jazz movie.
Drummer jazz is very good.
Yeah, it
You
was.
should see
Yeah, it was okay.
So that's who they're trying to get to play Case.
He's
right
too
now.
old. Yeah, I mean, because Case is 24 is young. So I think in my head I was trying to just. So I also watched Tuesday night. I watched Johnny Mnemonic, which is based on a short story by William Gibson, and I love me a young Keanu Reeves. So I was trying to picture him.
I mean, I think all the people in this book are too young for what they're doing and for all the traumas they've had.
Yeah.
But
And I also think that
they should all be in their 30s.
Yeah, but I also think 40 years ago, like my people were older in their 20s than they are now. I don't know. It just seems like it.
Maybe.
But
You'd be 24 and seen some things.
yeah.
Okay, I have a question for you guys. So, Case is a disgraced cowboy. A cowboy, I guess, is a hacker.
Console
So-
cowboy. Yeah.
So, when he jacks in, what is he doing in there?
That is a good question,
I don't
Lori.
see him do
Oh, I can answer
anything.
this. So-
Okay.
So have you seen Hackers or any of these movies from the 90s that like depicted the internet? 'Cause
Yeah,
it helps.
I don't remember.
I could also. We can put some YouTube links in the show link. So I recently won a MetaQuest 2, which is like the new Oculus headset. It's a visual representation of data, and then like movies like Hackers, you see like the numbers fall, like kind of like in the Matrix.
Yeah,
they have
sure,
like
yeah.
the green. So it's like it's not a real thing that ever existed. But so when William Gibson wrote this, he had never touched the computer. He typed it on an electric typewriter. He wouldn't touch a keyboard for years, and when he finally did, he was like, "Oh, this is boring." But it's just like it's like you look into like it looks like a video game.
your
basically.
Okay, but my question is, what does he do, though?
So
like,
it's
he goes in, he jacks in,
He's got like a headset, I'm assuming.
he says a few things to Dixie, and then is like, fuck Dix, and then jacks out.
So
And-
they're using programs to hack. They're hacking into they're getting past security defenses to get to other parts of a software matrix.
Yeah. So they've, at some point, he's uploaded a Chinese virus, which I was like, but he didn't know that was going to be not politically correct in
I
2022.
didn't put that together.
But he keeps talking about the Chinese virus is breaking through the ice. But what is he doing?
So-
He seems to just go in and look and then be made uncomfortable by Dixie laughing, and then he leaves.
During that one, that's what he was doing. He wasn't doing anything because Dixie was running that Chinese virus.
Yeah.
Well, so
Earlier he was like when they went to get the flatline.
Yeah.
He was essentially, I think, writing code to like get past those defenses and make the security systems think something else was happening and like all this stuff. He was
So what
legit
did we
hacking.
need him for after that?
I am not sure.
So he's not writing code in the traditional sense. Like if you watch an engineer right now, write code is HTML/img. So Johnny Mnemonic actually has a great scene where he's wearing like a headset. He's got haptic feedback gloves, and it's a visual representation of code. So like you can like touch China, dial a phone number, hack into a thing. Then you see like a mountain that represents like everything is visually represented in space in
It's
a way.
VR.
Yeah. It's primarily VR with like a hacking edge, but it's not like opening up Dreamweaver and typing in like .com or whatever. It's like very visual in this book. It's not.
Yeah, I
real,
guess I just
so.
don't see his activity.
You're asking the question I had because really at the end of the book, during the big heist, when they go like until he has to physically go there because of Molly getting compromised.
Yeah.
he isn't doing anything besides flipping back and forth, and I guess he's technically babysitting the flatline.
Yeah,
and
he
the
checks
virus.
in on
Yeah,
it.
but it doesn't seem like he's doing a whole lot. Earlier in the book, it does seem like we were supposed to get the impression he was this like ninja hacker. I mean, after the virus breaks into the AI, he does go in there and surf around and do some stuff.
Yeah. He gets trapped in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's
But
helping.
he's like the new ninja. He's like the new Hideo.
He's helping Dixie, who can't do things on his own because he's like,
A construct.
yeah, basically. And then he's slipping back and forth between Molly's sensorium, like seeing what's going on in her head, and then also coding too. And then he also gets trapped by Wintermute and like these weird, like when he flatlines, he like experiences days of time, but it's like 5 minutes. Like at one point he wakes up and Malcolm is like, "You've been gone 5 minutes," but he's like, "Well, I was like living there for a week on the beach."
Right,
So-
but like her question is like, and mine was, but what is he doing for the heist? Like, what is he doing
he's
for
just
the heist?
helping break the ice. So ICE stands for Intrusion Countermeasures Electronics. So
You broke the.
Yeah.
Just gotta break the ice, you know. Sometimes you just gotta break the ice.
It can be really awkward.
yeah, I mean, like he's the one that has the agency. I think Dixie like helps him do stuff, but he's the one that has to like keep an eye on like how they're babysitting the virus too.
I mean, I
so.
guess it was good he was there after Molly got her leg broken or whatever.
Yeah. He was doing some stuff. He just did not strike me as instrumental after the first heist.
He's the best cowboy there is, Lori. How dare you?
Now that
question-
Dixie is dead.
Aw, Dixie. Self-sacrifice. God bless. He wanted to be erased, though.
Yeah, I mean, he was just like living in and he couldn't make new memories.
But
so.
then it seems like Linda Lee at the end. So Linda Lee is Case's unfortunate ex-girlfriend. She seems like she's now living in the Matrix or
Yeah.
whatever. And she seems like she's not as bad off as the Flatline. Like she's living a whole life.
Yeah, she's got a different deal, I think.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Well, the Flatline, like he agreed to have his consciousness like downloaded.
Jacked in.
Yeah, before he ever died. And somehow like Wintermute has snagged this lady's whole consciousness and let her live a life.
And how, I ask you, did he do that? She died in a boxing
Yeah,
ring.
how did he have access to
Well,
her?
and I think
don't
it
know.
was it's bait for him too. Like,
Well, I know what his motivation probably
Yeah.
was, but I don't understand how he, the physics of how he went in and got her consciousness and put it into a matrix.
yeah, I mean, I think this book you can't think too hard about. Like, it's not going to make logical sense.
Yeah.
You got to like kind of turn that part off. I think. Like, he's not actually coding. He's flying through mountains of
Right.
data.
Like I know he's
Yeah.
not coding, but that's the only like analog I can really.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Y'all should watch some of the videos of like these things. It helps. It really does.
I've seen Tron and all the.
Yeah,
I've seen
I
all
know
that
what
stuff.
it's supposed to look like in there. I just don't understand what his role is. Like, what's his job once he's in there? He seems like his job is there, and he's like, "How's the virus coming?" And he's like, "Melting the ice." And then he's like, "Don't laugh in my ear. I hate it." And then he leaves. So I just don't like.
there to
I
be
don't
the-
have a hard time visualizing
Yeah.
inside the Matrix. I have a hard time understanding what his job is.
He's there to be the strung out white dude with the Asian girlfriend.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
the
I think-
protagonist.
Yeah, I mean, one of my notes is like, I think this book would be so much more interesting if Molly was the main character.
Yes.
Yeah, Molly is an interesting.
I would read that
character.
fanfic, man.
Yeah, I mean, because like Case is kind of a fuck up loser. Like, he's not sympathetic. I don't care about what happens to Case. I'm like, oh, does he overdose? I don't care. Like,
Yeah. Agreed.
like he does nothing that like impresses me the entire book.
Yeah, like how did Molly meet Armitage? How does she feel about going to get this guy, and why is she sleeping with him?
Well,
and
I think Molly's she's like just basically a mercenary. So
yeah,
Armitage
she's getting paid.
found a mercenary
Oh,
to
yeah.
hire.
Yeah,
I know. I just I'd like to hear her inner world about that, minus the stuntism.
yeah. I mean, like she's the
Quote,
only one
unquote,
that we get inner world
puppet,
glimpses
meat
into.
puppet.
Like when he's writing her, she's like, hey, let me tell you about Johnny, and she tells
When
like
he's what her?
when he's writing her, like so it's
Writing,
Called, It's
okay.
called having a writer. RIDER. Yeah.
When he's sim stimming.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
gotcha.
like sometimes people can tell when you have a writer and they're like, you have a writer, get out of here. Like,
Yeah.
so-
Okay, gotcha now.
Yeah, and so like she'll go into these huge like 3-page monologues of like, here's what happened to my trauma. Here's
Yeah.
my ex-boyfriend, and like we don't get that from Case at all.
Oh, he likes to write about Molly's trauma a lot.
We'll get to that later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Woo. Also, LOL, Bama.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. There are several shout outs to Atlanta. So
I know.
Oh, yeah.
And you never see Atlanta in
know.
any kind of media. I was
That's
like,
nice.
oh, there we are.
One of my notes was, what's worst, Hotlanta or Lanta?
Atlanta. Yeah. So after they leave Eastern Asia, they come to the Bama Sprawl, which is the Baltimore Atlanta metropolitan area. So like we're almost there.
I
mean,
know.
like-
I totally can see it.
Like you leave Atlanta and you drive through Loganville, Snowville. It's like all the same strip mall for like 50 miles.
You mean Lanta.
So yeah, he calls Atlanta at one point with just no way. And that strangely never took off. So
Weird.
all
They
right.
didn't eat in Atlanta. They only ate crabs in Baltimore and got eggs in Boston or whatever.
That's
They
true.
could take the train anywhere, though, in like lickety split, which I thought was pretty cool. Wish we
Yeah.
could do that.
So I would like to talk about the Rastafarians. I enjoyed the characters. Obviously, it's problematic when a white man, like we said, writes in dialect that's not his own. But I think, honestly, this is the first book in my entire life I've read that features Rastafarian characters in like a major role. So that was kind of cool. A note on Marcus Garvey, the name of the tug that they ride in. He was a Jamaican political activist, founder and first president general of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. And I found this out separately a couple weeks ago. So the White Star Line was the name of the company that produced the Titanic. Marcus Garvey started the Black Star Line. It was a new line focused on traveling between Africa and the Americas back in like the early part of the 20th century, which would be Black owned, Black staffed, and utilized by Black patrons that wanted to travel from America to Africa. So that was interesting.
And it sailed? Like it went?
Yeah, it did not do well. It didn't last very long, but there was a Black Star Line for a little bit.
That's neat.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I can't speak to the portrayal because I don't know enough to speak to it, but I appreciated that amongst so many writers who do not envision a future where there are non-white people or women with jobs, he did do that.
He did do that.
Yeah, I did a very deep dive on Rastafarianism today, and it was fascinating. So.
It is interesting.
And then I listened to some reggae.
Good. I thought that Malcolm was one of the most, I thought he was one of my favorite characters, even though I admit that he was there's problems with the character, I think. And I like that he gave them kind of that backstory where they were like, they went to space, I guess, to work on the spindle or whatever they were on, that Freeside archipelago. And they were just like, peace, we're going to go found our own colony, basically. And they did. They went and found a colony based on their religion, and they were like fully realized in their own thing up there. And I thought that was great. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't think I wish I knew more about Rastafarian to know how short a shrift he gave it, because I'm sure he did give it a pretty short shrift. But I liked that I thought that was an interesting move. Like he thought of a lot of interesting sort of details to put in this book that show that he's a good writer, I think.
Yeah, well, this was his first book.
Right,
so
exactly.
I think, he was learning how to write. And I think there's a lot in this book that shows a lot of potential.
Did you guys know that this is the third book in a row we've read that used the word lozenge?
Lozenge.
No, but I did notice the word lozenge. Oh, yeah, because Stars in My Pocket has
lozenges. There was a lozenge in Winnebago's.
I didn't understand what lozenges meant in Stars in My Pocket.
That meant
they're dangly beads in your face. I did not understand what lozenge meant here, but I decided I didn't care.
Like a little ball of light.
It's like an oblong shape, basically.
So was the lozenge in Winnebago's actually like a cough drop?
I can't remember what it was in that. It was one of the 4 books we read last month. I'm actually not totally positive it was Winnebago's. No. I'm sorry. It was Emperor's Soul. That's where it showed up. There was a lozenge.
That makes sense.
There was a lozenge in it. I can't remember what it was.
The only thing I know about a lozenge is a cherry-flavored Hall's cough drop.
Yeah, that's a lozenge. It's lozenge shaped. Yeah.
I didn't know lozenge was a shape.
Well, I thought it was a cough drop. When it popped up in Stars in My Pocket, I remember looking at the word up specifically because I was like, I've used this word before. Do I know what it means? And so I looked it up, and that's when I found it's really just shape. But then it kept popping up. And since I looked it up in Stars in My Pocket, now I've seen it twice more.
You're having that.
This is a very sci-fi word.
Bader Ginsburg effect.
Yeah.
What is it really called? Bader Meinhof.
Bader Ginsburg.
I like to call them rhyming incidents. I forget the author, the guy who wrote. Never mind.
Did you notice the last of the horsey bagos in this book? They went to.
Oh yeah, because the horses were extinct.
Oh yeah.
They went to a market and there was a stuffed horse outside of one shop, and the Finn is like, "Have you ever seen a horse before? I saw one right before the virus took him out, or something like that." I was like, "Oh,
the horse virus,
horsey bagos."
So I have a whole list of things that this book reminded me of, and so I feel like it must have influenced.
Yeah,
if I may.
for sure.
Okay. Are you going to mention the impaling?
I sure am.
Yes.
What's the impaling?
well, Haley. When was Ringworld? What year was that? Was that
74.
Okay, so that was before. Okay. Yeah. Well, much like Downtown Tila Brown.
Oh, yeah. This did remind me of Ringworld. Like, they go to a place that it's weird, and there's misogyny.
Molly impales herself on Case.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
It's active.
It's a choice.
I don't mind it. It's
a word choice.
It's not the word I would use, but
it's a word choice these men are making.
She's doing her thing. Okay. Okay. So that one. Then The Matrix, obviously. And then I thought about Proof by Induction, the Hugo finalist short story from last year where the guy could go to the little room and talk to his father's imprint and work on math with his dad. I thought about that like Dixie Flatline.
Yeah, because he doesn't remember each time. Yeah.
Well, Dixie, he remembers unless he's reset.
Yeah.
So from visit to visit, he remembers. But there was one time when Case like talked to him about something, and then they had to unplug him or reset him or something, and then came back and he didn't remember anything. So it was similar. And then I thought about The Body Scout, which I don't think you guys have read. It's by Lincoln Michelle. It was really good. I nominated it for a Hugo last year. Or I nominated it for Astounding Award last year, I think. I nominated the author because that was his first novel, I think. And I may have also nominated it for Best Novel. I don't know. No one cares. It's good, though. And in that book, there's similarly kind of tidal pond organs and body modifications that you might have to pay off. Like if you needed a new pancreas, you might get a pancreas, but then like the pancreas repo man would be coming after you. And it was kind of similar to this, where like I've implanted all these poison things in you, and if you don't do this thing, then you're going to be poisoned.
Is that like Repo the Genetic Opera?
And that's the next one on my list. Also like Repo the Genetic Opera.
I have a shout out to you later for something that you will appreciate.
Oh, and then also it reminded me of The Body Scout because they have the thing where they have the brothels, I guess you could call them, where the people are paid to have their bodies used as for sex work, but they're sort of not in their bodies when it's happening. And in the Body Scout, there are people who pay to let their bodies be used for sex. So like you could warg into someone else's body, have a big orgy, but that person is along for the ride when you're doing it. So they don't have any control over their body, and they are still conscious when it's happening. So it's sort of like this, but not exactly. And then every time the internet spawns an AI, obviously Jane in Speaker for the Dead, and Cheshire Cat in Chaos on Catnet by Naomi Kritzer. And also the sequel, Catfishing on Catnet, which I haven't read, but I read the first one and it was really good. And lastly, there's a little shout out to Event Horizon.
Yeah, I saw that.
Here.
I was going to say, and I had this misogynist moment for later, but when the sex worker meat puppets, or they have their memories erased so that they don't remember the horrible things that happen to them while they're working, gives me Severance vibes, which I haven't seen, but Lori talks about a lot.
There was also, the AI and the way people were when I started thinking about Linda Lee and them living in the Matrix, kind of, it made me think about, oh gosh, I never remember the title of this book, The Sparrow.
When the Sparrow Falls.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. That book by Neil Sharpson is so good.
It's so good.
I also nominated it last year.
As I was diving deep into cyberpunk, I realized that, it's one of my favorite genre of movies. So let me list off some of these movies that have a cyberpunk vibe that may not be like right on par, like, Blade Runner, obviously, but some things are more adjacent. But we have The Matrix, Fifth Element, one of my all-time favorites that Lori will watch one day.
Consistently sleeps through.
Terminator, Blade Runners, both of them, Judge Dredd, Demolition Man, Hackers, The Trons, RoboCops, Gattaca, Escape from New York, Total Recall. I love anything with a weird fluorescent light, gritty vibe. I love it. So
Fluorescent lights. She says from behind fluorescent lights glasses.
So I bought this game last year, and it was fraught with peril because like they released it too soon. But it's called Cyberpunk 1977, and it's like you basically play like a street hacker splicer, and you can like body jump. It's very cool, and it's got a great open world activity scene, kind of like Grand Theft Auto. So you can like drive at night in Night City with cool techno music. It's very fun.
Had VR... I have a couple of questions about the context of the ideas in this book. VR wasn't a thing yet.
Oh, no.
I'm assuming.
In 1984, I cannot imagine.
Right. So he had to sort of conceive of this idea that you could put your consciousness into this thing that was not real, but would seem real to you.
The concept of like cyborgs had been around, like in the Samuel Delaney books. I mean, I think they were inching towards it. Blade Runner he had seen. I think he had probably, he definitely didn't invent it, but like he was like poking around and he helped expand upon it a lot. But I was thinking about like, him writing about a computer, never having used one, would be like me writing a book about woodworking. And I'd be like, shave the edge. Like, you just have to make up things. But
well, it's more like a very, very, very new technology that no one knows what it's going to do yet. And you get to just imagine it. So like whatever.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I don't know, Elon and his chips, like we could kind of decide what we think that will look like and write a whole book about it. Like, but he was so wrong about so many things and so right about so many things that it's just very interesting to see that kind of thing. Did he invent the word Microsoft?
I have scoured the internet for this and I can't find anything except people on Reddit saying that they think it's not related to the company, that they separately came up with that name.
Maybe the company maybe Steve Jobs read this somehow and it influenced them.
Because Microsoft,
Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Microsoft, the company was founded like the late 70s, right?
I don't know.
I think it's around like 1980-ish, but like there's a chance that Bill Gates read this and like he's like, that's a cool word.
I was very curious about that. And then he talks about silicon so much, and I was like, is Silicon Valley a thing at this point? Probably not.
No, but like silica chips were like in programming, like hardware was definitely a thing.
So that was well known.
Well, and software was also a thing, and micro was also like
small software.
So it's like it could all just be coincidence, and I couldn't find any connection anywhere on the internet.
He definitely invented cyberspace, which is cool.
Microsoft was founded in 1975.
75. Okay.
So yeah, he didn't, but like
so that wasn't a word he made up. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, he definitely made up cyberspace.
I like that he came up with a world in which you could jack into the Matrix and it was like this consensual hallucination implying that, you know, if you got a deck, you can jack in no matter who you are, right? But we're also still getting together to play video games at arcades. We're going to malls. There's still dial phones.
Yeah.
Oh, he said in the introduction that he was a little bit embarrassed that he had payphones in his future world.
A lot.
But the payphone scene is so good.
That scene was the first one that I was like, oh, he's good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
When he walks by a bank of payphones and each one rings one time as he passes it. And he's like, maybe it isn't for me.
Yeah.
It might not be.
I was also thinking about the first line and how he says the sky was the color of a television dead channel or whatever.
So
I was like,
so good.
Are the children going to know what that means?
Oh.
There are no dead channels anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just a baby and I know what it means.
You are so young.
I'm only we did this math the other day. I'm only like 600 and something months old.
The obsession with youth in this book is a whole nother thing. Like all the women are young. Every last one of them are young.
No one wants
They're
to see an old crone.
There was one quote where it was like, the skin under her eyes was sallow or something, but still unlined. She was still pretty. It was like, well, thank God.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but like there's also weird, like the guy that has like a face with shark cartilage. That was cool.
Yeah, some of the modifications sounded wild. I mean, all of Molly's modifications were wild. She had knives in her fingers and this mirror contraption over her eyes.
Yeah, I tried Googling fan art and it was kind of wicked.
I think it was on Schmoop that I read about this. The the themes that come out of this mirror over her eyes. So like all you ever see in her eyes is the world. You don't ever see her, which Case says at one point that people say that the eyes are the windows to the soul, but he doesn't see it, and her eyes are covered and you can't see her at all, and you can only see the world that's harmed her. I don't know. I thought that was really interesting. I don't know why I started talking about that.
It's a little heavy-handed, but I get it. My eyes aren't my eyes. Yeah.
There are office workers who have glittery vagina tattoos on their wrists.
That's my feminist favorite.
Oh, okay,
Vajazzle.
Why did nothing ever come of Chekhov's shuriken?
Oh,
Nothing
I know. So many times he's
came.
like, I got these throwing stars.
I know.
And then he just packs up and throws it on the wall.
Yeah, he's like, all right, bye.
I guess that's so. There's
Is that how he like breaks ties with this whole experience by just leaving that in the wall
he's
of the
like,
hotel room?
this is the one thing I'm going to leave because he's not really a fighter. He's always in the internet. So
I know he was obsessed. Like weaponry was a big thing in this book. Like I think I had a line in my outline. It was like the real women were the guns we met along the way, because it was like there was more talk about guns and weaponry in this book than almost anything else, it seemed like to me. And so his, in the beginning he was so obsessed with self-protection and getting a weapon, and he was really into this shuriken. And then by the end he was like, meh.
Okay, well, that's because I think in the beginning of the book he can't get into the internet, so he's like, I don't know how to protect myself.
He's like,
or he has something else to do.
He's a lamb in the wild.
Yeah, like he's a hired gun when he's got his nervous system back. Yeah, I was thinking a lot about those sacs because they're attached to his liver, pancreas, whatever, and Armitage like knows the way to get them off. But I was like, but if you dissolve the sacs, he's just going to get poisoned. But apparently it would do it in a way that didn't kill him. I don't know.
Yeah, he said that there was an enzyme that would dissolve whatever was holding it to the lining of his body, and without dissolving the toxin, the sac itself. Something.
Very
The
convenient.
scary thing about that is that it might not even be true, and you have no way of knowing.
I thought about that too.
That's the really scary thing.
That's why Molly was like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, I thought about that too. It's like, there's a lot about this manipulation in this book, like how you can manipulate other people. And it seems like most of the manipulation in this book takes place using fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
blackmail or
I'm going to poke these really tender parts of you and make you afraid. But then there's also some like carrot dangling, like Linda Lee, like when Neuromancer shows up and tries to get Case to stay on the beach instead of going back and helping Wintermute. he's like, wouldn't you like to stay here on this beach with this nice lady? And it goes back to what Case got so mad at Wintermute because he took away that ability. Like he dangled this comfort, this woman, these cigarettes, the place to stay, and then took him away. And he got so mad at Wintermute. And then Neuromancer was like, I can give you everything you ever wanted. Don't you want to stay here forever? You know?
Well, but I think that's further proof that AIs don't understand humans because he didn't love Linda. He didn't want to live on this weird gray beach. So,
but he did like her enough to have sex with her on the beach.
He kind of loved her.
I mean, he kind of loved her.
He thought about her through the whole book. I mean,
I think it's just because she kept appearing though. Like he never pined or said anything nice about her. Oh, that was my impression.
I got pining vibes.
I got a girl he was having.
I don't know if it was written well, but I think the implication was that he thought about her a lot. Well, it was sad.
He's 24 and he's very messed up. So, his love probably doesn't come out like us as 40-year-old women would want to see it. But I think that he loved her. I think he was very sad about her. Because he didn't just forget about her the minute he started boning Molly. He wasn't like, Linda who? I mean, he continued to pine for her and be sad about her and angry about her.
Really? I got no emotion from this man about her.
I don't know that he writes emotion well, so I don't know that it was really well done or successful.
But y'all got it, though. I got nothing, so...
I guess it's just, I mean, I guess there's a question there because Wintermute can only go off his memories. And if that's the girl he remembers, then maybe he's going to try and use her. Maybe it's not what we think.
But he wasn't like, oh my God, Linda, I missed you so much. Which is what I would need to
Well, he knew she wasn't real, though.
Yeah.
I think he...
And it didn't immediately look like her either, did it? I
don't remember.
It was weird. He was on that beach and talking to the girl, or the girl was there, and it took him a while to realize it was Linda.
Which is like a real dream.
That's true.
This entire book is like when you try to explain a dream to a friend. It's like, and then you were there, but you were my grandma.
Right.
Yeah. And then I went to space, and then I was in Jamaica. It didn't make any sense half the time. So, all right, feminist favorite. There's a scene that's so cinematic where she's walking into Three Jane's cave, and she's about to kick some ass. So I really like that. I also like that when she's like, "Let Riviera go. I've been poisoning that motherfucker."
My feminist favorite was I wish I had the quote in front of me. I could probably look it up if we want it verbatim, but it's the young tech workers, young office techs who have idealized holographic vaginas on their wrists.
Yes.
Yes.
And they're glittery, and it said they were wet and glistening.
All the time, just always wet.
I love that they're office workers.
I know. It's like wearing a necklace.
Okay. Mine was when
Normalize it.
Molly tells everyone else that if she dies before Riviera dies, she says, tell him it was me.
Yes.
Like Lady Olenna.
I want him to know it was me.
And at that point, nobody knows that she's poisoned him. So she has, the reader doesn't know. I was like, tell him it was what? And then later you find out she's like, yeah, he's going to die.
Just like it. Yeah. I think that
so good.
That twist had to have come from this book.
It was so good.
Yeah, I like Molly's interactions with Riviera. So he does awful things. He does that shitty holographic thing where he's raping her, and she just turns the other cheek. She walks away. She's like, I'm gonna take care of him later. But she doesn't react in the way that you'd expect. Angry. She's playing the long game.
She serves that revenge cold.
Yes.
She sure does.
Yes. I thought that was
and it was so satisfying because there was another moment when she said that, and I was like, this book keeps fucking confusing me.
Yeah.
And then several pages later, I was like, oh, girl.
There was so much double crossing. And then
man.
double crossing. It was great.
All right. Boob talk. So I didn't have explicit examples because there's nothing over the top weird. It was just gross. Just
breast shows up 12 times, nipple shows up 3 times, flesh shows up 23 times.
Yeah, I didn't have an ebook, so I couldn't do my counts, which made me sad. Yeah.
I just thought this book is peppered with breasts.
Breasts everywhere.
Yeah.
But nothing really jumps out at me. There's nothing particularly prurient. He's just and by the way, she had 2 breasts.
Yeah. Or she was
One
wearing
brushed my arm.
She was wearing her necklace by her left breast.
That's a choice he made to say not hanging around her neck, but dangling between her breasts.
Which is true. I mean, that, the breasts are there and the necklace is next to them. And I none of it was prurient or gross. It was just I can't let you forget at all times that she has breasts.
The only one that bugged me was when he was talking about the French girl that he sees when they're in Freeside. Thank you, Freeside. So he first notices her as a French teenager. That's all you find out. And that woman is not mentioned without also mentioning her breasts. Her breasts are small and brown. They are high and firm. They are wet at one point. They they're always there.
Well, if he didn't tell you, how would you know? What if you forgot?
They are always there.
What if you forgot about that?
I thought of you at one point because there was a passage where he referenced like her breast and someone else's ankle, like really close to each other. It reminded me of when you were talking about, what if we just treated breast as an arm? And I was like, that's what it looks like.
Somewhat in his defense, he does do a lot of describing people's appearances.
Yeah.
So in Boob Talk, I had that he Case observed of the guy whose name he can't say, who he calls Jersey. He says, his white shirt was open at the collar, revealing a mat of dark hair so dense that Case at first mistook it for some kind of T-shirt.
There are so many good little description things that really stand out. Like,
Yeah.
I like
stuff like that.
The older lady who has the Porsche glasses or whatever it is. Do y'all remember her? Like she was awesome. She was like this older woman with gray hair, and she had Porsche glasses that she lowered and looked at him over her glasses when he did something untoward. And then he got up and like said, "See you, lady," and took off. Or whatever. I liked her a lot.
I also have the time that Case went to the bar and was involuntarily drugged by, I think, a three Jane clone.
No, Kath is just a...
Who's Kath?
So Kath just comes up to him at the pool. She's always wet, Kath.
No. Kath is people he meets on Freeside. That's like they're like drug buddies. He gets high with them.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Kath and Bruce are a couple that
I
he
could
parties
not figure out who they were. Okay, so Kath involuntarily drugs him. She slaps a drug patch on his arm, and he ends up in this addled state. And guys, his erection was a bar of lead.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that.
It sure was.
That sounds awful.
And then he like reveals it to Molly at one point, and she's like, "Yes, ma'am," and like gets right on that.
She impaled herself.
She impaled herself.
Yeah, there's... Again, we realize as we read these books written by men that they just like... Do guys just think about boobs that much? I guess they do.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm starting to forgive it.
I mean, they're always out there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, but like women don't write books like, oh, man, that bulge in his pants, man. His underwear were on his balls.
Right, like that's a genre. That's a genre. Like,
Yeah.
we know what books to get for that.
Yeah.
But this is like if a man wrote it,
and then
the
won
boobs
3
are
major
everywhere.
awards. Like it's...
I mean, but again, he's not like.
Yeah,
He's
this didn't bother
generally
me.
not being gross about it. It didn't
Yeah,
bother me.
No, 100%.
It is just still like, what if every character was like, and there was a nose right there in the middle of his face.
Yeah.
And then he turned to look at me, his nose first, because the nose sticks out, and it is the first feature you see.
I think it's the sex scene with Impale, because it's like 2 or 3 paragraphs long, and he does something with his hand that I could not. I was like trying to like...
I tried to act this out
Yeah,
too.
because he's like, because like his hand was in the butt.
Let's discuss this. He talks about how his thumb was on the vulva area.
No, thumb was in the butt.
The thumb was on the butt crease.
And the fingers were in the
So
vagina.
he had to
yeah.
be going this way.
Yeah, I guess he was behind.
Like he was.
It didn't seem
below
comfortable.
her. He was. We're not putting this on the podcast.
Why? One in the pink, how many in the stink?
So she had to be on top of him, and he had to be basically doing a reach around.
That
For
seemed
that to work.
Yeah, it was very.
I did a lot of
I was
minding
doing
this.
hand gymnastics. Like, where does it go? Because it makes more sense to have the thumb up front.
I know. This makes more sense. But if he went this way, you could do it.
All right, misogynist moment. For me, again, we talk about this ad nauseum, but like, he didn't have to put in a horrible reality for sex workers, but he was like, I'm going to go there.
I think mine was the neural cutout meat puppet situation.
Yeah, that's exactly mine, where sex workers have the memories erased while they're working, so they don't remember what happens to their body. That's frightening.
And the image of him walking into the room and that woman sitting up and just being vacant.
Oh, it's horrible.
When he walks into the room, is just very disturbing to me.
But I didn't have misogynist moments so much. Like, well, I had a few things that I felt like were misogynist, but I don't think they're William Gibson as the author being misogynist. Like how we talked about with the sexual assault in Houston, and it's so horrible, but it's obviously like it's supposed to be horrible and it's supposed to show us something about this world or these people's like mindset. And I felt like that was what was happening here. Like I didn't think we were supposed to read this and be like,
no, he's not
getting our jollies off.
Yeah, no, he's
by
not selling
any
it.
means.
All the sex seemed very respectful.
It just made me like, there's the one sentence in particular, and we might have to put a trigger warning, but like when she's like, she wakes up sore, I was just like,
Yeah,
it really,
it's awful.
I felt it viscerally, like in a way that, I mean, and I don't think he's being like, I don't think he hates women, but it was hard to read.
My question is, why is that in there?
I mean, I don't
to
know.
show the hard world, which we know.
Right. I
But,
don't think you have to have that in there at all to get this book where it's going. You could even have her describe her experiences as a sex worker in certain way. You could have her talk to him about that without all of that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I found it upsetting, but I thought it was supposed to be upsetting and didn't feel exploitative, I guess, to me. And I thought it was interesting, like Molly's arc of having done that work, and now she's doing a very different kind of work with her body, which is interesting, as like basically a bodyguard.
She continues to sell her body in certain ways,
which is fine.
I'm not mad at her being a sex worker. It's just it's the.
Do we have to see this again? Yeah.
Him creating the situation where you carve out the woman's consciousness and just use her body and like really going into detail on it just really bothered me.
Well, I think Haley made a good comparison with Severance, because I think that does make it all the worse. Like, if you take away a sex worker's agency, that's when it becomes a problem, because I think all of us agree, like, it is fine for people to do sex work. That's valid work, and, they should be safe and decriminalized, and it's all fine. But when you take away that agency, that is when it's bad. And so that's what he's shown us here, is like, this is what's exploitative about it. I think not the work itself, but how they've structured it in such a way that the sex worker doesn't have the opportunity to say, for example, say no if something is happening that she would not consent to.
And she didn't even know what she was being sold for.
Yeah.
At one point they found out she had these modifications. They were like, and so they sold her. Basically, they sold her. She did not volunteer. I think.
Right. Yeah.
And as I was thinking about it too, I was like, maybe it's good that she didn't have the memory. Like, if I was doing stuff, like, maybe I wouldn't want to know. Maybe that's a blessing. And I was like, well, is it misogynist? I don't know.
I think my real misogynist moment is that they made her do a lot of her very athletic work in 2 pairs of pants. Because she was wearing leather pants, which don't breathe, as far as I know. And then she was also wearing that suit that blended her own with the background through most of it.
She has to look hot while she doesn't.
But she was wearing too many clothes. Let the woman breathe.
One thing I noticed is that a lot of people were wearing sleeveless jackets. I was like, then why wear a jacket? That's a shirt.
Because of 80s fashion. There are a lot of mesh shirts in this. I thought that was pretty great.
I love cyberpunk fashion too. It's just bananas. I wish I had more. All I wore was a leather jacket tonight, but I wanted to like get something real weird.
But a sleeveless jacket can also be like Joe Dirt.
That's true. It could be redneck.
It can mean a lot of things.
It's a very thin line.
Joe Dirt.
The other possible misogynist moment was Riviera's awful holographic performance that he does to like.
Yeah,
that's pretty bad.
That was really horrible.
Yeah. So
he was awful.
And he was awful. They didn't know each other. And he was like,
he just hated her.
The minute he met her, he was like, I want to break that one, which is so gross. And she knew that about him, where she was like, that's his thing.
Yeah.
But that was so gross. But that was some good revenge.
So.
And rape revenge is like hard to do well, I think. And this was, he didn't physically rape her, but it's certainly rapey what happened. And the revenge is so good.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic foods. All right. Lots of sushi in this book, which is to be expected because a lot of it takes place in Asia. But it would have been more exotic in the 80s because sushi was just getting off the ground in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when Savannah got our first Japanese restaurant, but like, you can buy sushi in rural grocery stores in America today everywhere. So I think that was kind of cool. And then we had the usual vat-grown meat.
I wanted to create a new segment called Cybercrank, because there were 150 kinds of drugs in this book.
Oh, so many drugs.
Which is mainly their food. So there was speed. There was that weird
beta-phenylethamine.
That one. Yeah. And then there was the Grievous Angel. And
the
then
Dex
there
patches.
Was, like there were so many drugs.
It's kind of like the first time in college I saw Trainspotting where I was like, oh, I have to do heroin. And then by the end of the movie, I was like, oh, I should never do heroin. But I was, and I don't even like uppers. And he's like, only uppers in this world. And I was like, no, I just need like a beer and I'm fine.
The other thing that jumped out at me was the reconstituted Chiba krill or whatever it was called.
The krill patties, every time I read that, I got hungry. Because I bet they were like shrimp burgers. Or like a salmon
patty.
It
would be more like pickled herring, and we know how you feel about pickled
herring. I don't want pickled herring, but I will eat a shrimp burger. Like I'm like,
your face just fell. You were like, oh no.
Yeah, but also the chicken.
Krill is fish.
I thought it was like a little shrimp.
It's like a little shrimpy guy. Like,
okay, all right.
Some whales eat krill.
Yeah.
Because you got to bring whales into every podcast. And then at one point they get chicken yakitori, and I was like, oh yes, dipping sauce.
Man, I missed all the food. I just have canned beef mush inside the Matrix with Linda, which I was surprised that you get hungry in there.
Yeah.
That reminded me of the food from 2001: A Space Odyssey when he's feeding them, when he has like cereal boxes full of the, like,
Yeah.
weird food.
The blue puffy stuff.
Yeah. And if you are new to the podcast, we have a food and science fiction and fantasy that we did a year ago, 2 years ago? I don't know.
We sure did.
And we talk about how noodles are the food of sci-fi. If you've seen Blade Runner or Fifth Element or things like
He
that.
eats noodles. Didn't he eat noodles at one point in this book?
I searched. I could not find
Not
noodles,
find noodles.
but I wouldn't be surprised if he
A lot
did.
of sushi.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, because like a lot of it's in Japan, so that makes sense.
And Japanese beers.
Yeah. And also, yeah, like
And a
Asahi.
Carlsberg.
A Carlsberg. My-
So much Carlsberg.
one of my least favorite beers.
And
Oh,
the Japanese cigarettes. Those kept showing up.
Oh, yeah. I kept trying to pronounce it Yaheya ones.
This I don't know how to pronounce it, but this book made me want to smoke again.
No, don't do it. Yeah.
Ugh.
As always, I will defer soap stuff to Lori.
Yes, thank you. This is an excellent soap
I want
stuff.
to try one.
Yes. I can't do it. I am like,
Can I try one?
Yeah.
I just can't do it.
When she drugged his drugs? I thought that was soapy.
When he drugged his
Drugged his
Yo,
drugs?
dog, I heard you like drugs.
Yeah, her revenge.
Oh, on Rivera.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's kind of soapy.
That's a good
You
one.
reveal it at the end.
Yeah, that is a good
Yeah,
one.
I did one.
Okay.
I am so bad at it.
So, turning Corto into Armitage.
Yes.
Taking this basically like a half brain dead, busted soldier who can't really remember himself and just giving him a whole new identity, giving him surgery to change his face. They fully remade him into someone else, both mentally and cosmetically, so that Wintermute and or Neuromancer could use him as a pawn like John Black in Days of Our Lives, who is known as the Pawn.
Oh.
So does that make RoboCop a soap opera?
I've never seen RoboCop.
Oh, we should watch RoboCop.
Kevin knows. He knows what I'm saying here.
Soap opera?
Based on that,
I mean, they
they take a broken man, turn him into something new, and use him as a pawn.
turn him into a cop.
A RoboCop.
Yeah.
In fact,
Anymore?
that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, that is a pretty good one. I was thinking about another new segment too, and I was like, what would be a better name for this book? Because I think Neuromancer is not it. And I was thinking Cyber Heist or New Jack City.
Jack in City. I looked up what a mancer is because
It's like fantasy.
so like a mancer is, someone who does a specific type of magic or manipulates a certain type of thing. So a magician of neuros was actually, I think, kind of appropriate. It seems good
I didn't like it.
because it's magic. This book is magic. I mean, these people can't do any
They
of
have
this
to
stuff.
say a magic word at the end.
I mean, this is a
Yeah.
magic. This is a fantasy.
I needed it more gritty, cybery.
The title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
like,
think neuromancer is a dope word.
it's a cool word, but like,
Yeah.
I think Wintermute sounds cool too.
Yeah.
yeah, Wintermute is cool. I wanted something a little bit grittier, I guess.
I wondered if I should name my next cat Wintermute because they're so manipulative.
Wintermew.
Oh, Winter Meow. All right, Star Wars or
Neuromancer.
What? Did you like this book?
Oh, did you like this book?
I did in the end, I think.
Once I read what happened in this book, and then I read it again, I like this book.
I have to say that with a big asterisk, though, because I don't think it was particularly well written for the most part, but it gives you a lot to think about, and
The world is amazing.
it's an interesting place to hang out.
I'm glad I read it.
I did not enjoy reading it, but I've enjoyed talking about it.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah,
there's
that usually
a lot
happens.
in there that's good.
Yeah.
There's
It's
and
hard to read.
It's like with some of the other books we've read, it's not this book's fault that a lot of the innovation in it doesn't feel innovative now.
Yeah.
But I can see that it definitely was at the time, and it's been very fun to chat about. So
Yeah, and I like as I was driving here with my cyberpunk glasses, I put on a cyberpunk playlist, and I was like, I just like the vibe that this book gives,
Yeah.
and vibes of the movies that are inspired by it. So
Better
Okay.
cyberpunk than steampunk.
yeah, steampunk is very 2012 Dragon Con. Like, all right, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings? What do y'all got?
Lord of the Rings.
Explain yourself, counselor.
Band of misfits on a confusing quest, plus there are too many characters, and Wintermute and Neuromancer are like Saruman and Sauron.
All right, I have Star Wars, more specifically Attack of the Clones, because in that movie there's the Outlander Club where Obi-Wan and Anakin visit, and it's in the lower bowels of Coruscant, which is very cyberpunk, where you can buy death sticks from a man named Elon Sleaze Bagano. That's his name. That is on the Wikipedia. That is his name. Sleaze Bagano is his name.
I don't hate it.
Oh, also, when Hideo the ninja shoots blind after they blind him.
Oh, yeah.
It's like in Rogue One when Chirrut Imwe takes down stormtroopers with his staff.
I also think it's Lord of the Rings because this book is a fantasy. But really, we all know it's Ocean's 11.
It hinges on a magic word.
Yeah. But is there a magic word in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, they have to speak friend and enter. Friend is the magic word.
I mean, it's really the Matrix too.
Yeah, it's Ocean's 11 plus the Matrix plus Blade Runner plus whatever.
That's true. That's true.
All right. Coming up next time?
Yes.
Coming up next time.
January, The Big Time by Fritz Leiber. February, Doomsday Book by Connie Willis. March, Cytine by C.J. Cherry.
Mhm.
And April, Where Late the Sweet Birds Sang, which I just think is a terrible title, by Kate Wilhelm.
It's probably from a poem.
Oh, yeah.
And yet I know why the caged bird sings really works.
That's true, but because we have read the poem and know what it's about. So.
Yeah.
And I've listened to this on audiobook. If you have an Audible membership, the audiobook is included. So I've slept through it a couple of times. That's not a criticism. I sleep through audiobooks.
Yeah.
So I know the gist of it. It's another Attack of the Clones.
Sweet.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.